Hi, I'm Hannah Wallace and welcome to FinextraTV. With me now, speaking in the lead up to Sustainable.Finance.live in October, is Richard Pearse, founder of ResponsibleRisk. Richard, it's great to have you back. Good to be speaking with you.
Well, here we are again. Good to see you.
Good to have you on. And of course, we've got Sustainable.Finance.live around the corner in October, and that's going to be focusing on financing sustainable cities and asking that important question, whether it's worth it. So a really interesting one. But before we approach that quite big question, I think it's worth starting with a bit of a recap and talking about the purpose and also the outcome of past events as well. So let's start there.
Yeah, well, we've been doing this since 2019. So as you know, I think we've had a number of conferences, a couple of hackathons and so forth. And the whole idea behind it is really to not just have people talking, not just to have a talking shop and reports produced, but it is really about getting people together in a multidisciplinary group so that we can understand all of the sides of the problem of climate change, nature loss, just transition, and help those people understand the perspective so that they can then go on and deliver action which should make a change in the world. And we do that using that kind of fintech model that we're so familiar with at Finextra, which is, if we think about it, talk about it, then we can act on it, then we can invest in it, and we can produce organizations that can change the world for the better.
So let's talk about the focus of the upcoming event, financing sustainable cities. Why sustainable cities? Why start there?
Well, a number of reasons, but actually what was a real shock to me is the concentration risk in cities. So you have something like 70% of global energy use is in cities or in support of cities, and something like 3/4 of CO2 emissions are around cities. Wow. So when we look at these places, you also have, very high concentration of GDP. So there's money and a problem. And obviously, there's a human issue. So it talks to the politics that are going to have to respond to it. And so also it's definable. You can get your hands around it. If you think about climate change on a global basis, a lot of people go, oh, well, I don't know about that. I can't do anything without China and India being on board. But you can do something about, Manchester, Liverpool, London, California, New York, whatever. And so it's tangible, it's local, which is important for, I think, people to feel engaged in it. But fundamentally, there is money and there is political will associated with a big problem.
And that's the special thing about Sustainable.Finance.live. You're presented with this giant challenge at the beginning of the event, which is then broken down over the course of the event, and that's what makes it special. But for this event, how do you intend to break down this challenge?
Yeah, it was a pretty a big task, and the advisory board, which works with me all year long to put this together, we really thought, well, we can't tackle absolutely every single element, but if we take our constants, which is the financing, because money talks, it needs to be able to finance the transition, and technology, which is always part of what we do at Finextra, then what are the other variables? So we've really looked at, obviously, climate, both mitigation and adaptation. What do you need to do to stop the outputs and also prepare for the worst situations? But also, what about the role of energy specifically? That's the big, kind of lever being used quite a lot in cities. So climate, energy, but then also some of the positives, nature as a place which we need to have a good life in a city, but also it is part of the cleansing production side of a city. And then finally, a just transition, because it's all well and good sort of, saying we're going to change this whole place, and you don't take everybody with you. Perhaps people being moved and relocated, or jobs not being appropriate for this new world. That's not going to work. It's not going to fly. So we've got to think about the just transition as well. So that's what we've chosen to tackle, and that's enough, I can tell you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And as always, there's always a strong focus on the technology and the finance, as you say. So for this event, talking about the role and how they come in, what will be the emphasis that you'll be looking at?
For those two elements? Well, so one of the big things when you look at some of the case studies, and of course we will always talk about case studies of where this has been solved or on the journey to being solved, because I think it's too hard just to brainstorm from scratch. So, we looked at some examples, and in the webinar which we've got coming up this week, we'll be talking about Lisbon. There were examples from Shanghai, there are examples in the UK. And so there, quite often, one of the things you're seeing is that you want to have a geospatial view of the landscape. So you want to be able to plan, so what can I see from space, from drones, from sensors, that is the issue, if you like, and the problem space. And then how would you replan it? Okay, so that's a lot of it is around satellite and space and sensors, so you can see the flows and replan it. And that then produces obviously a huge amount of data. So of course we're talking about AI here, because we need that to help us process and simulate and look at the future. So that's one aspect. And on the finance side, really when it comes down to the money, there are lots of instruments and techniques, but it comes down to the bond market. And this is either sovereign or municipal bonds. And so we've spoken before, as you remember, about green bonds, about sustainability-linked bonds, but we want to also look at things like sustainability-linked loans as well. So the public-private finance, development funding, plus private funding, using things like bonds, but not forgetting our good favourite tokenization, because some projects will be small and local, and there we want to be able to sort of think about crowdsourcing, community and citizens together to make a change, and there we'll be talking about tokenization.
It's really exciting, and you've highlighted some big fintech trends there as well, so that's really interesting for our audience. And alongside the conferences are the hackathon, so I'd love to hear a bit more about that and how people can get involved as well.
Yeah, well, absolutely, and there's more to it this year than before. So I suppose what I've said is we've got the business problem, the citizen public space problem of cities that we're going to talk about. So if you are somebody in the technology industry trying to build a business, or you're in a technical role, or a commercial role, and you say, well, I want to build a business around this, I can see it fits my purpose, but also there's money to be made in this transformation. But I don't necessarily fully understand all of the whys and wherefores of this. Well, you'll learn very rapidly through the conference program about the whys and wherefores. Then the hackathon is providing you the NEA1 platform, who we worked with last year, the providers of the FCA sandbox. That platform is a place where you can collaborate, build a team if you're an individual, or bring a team if you are a team. You can get access to data, geospatial data, you can use AI services and so forth. They'll be provided, plus APIs. And that will allow you to bring your business idea, brainstorm it, collaborate, maybe start to build the beginnings of some analysis through code to actually deliver on the hackathon. So that is very much, the way of turning talk into action. And then this year we're also working with some accelerators, and these accelerators are, as we all know, places where the green shoots of an idea can go to be incubated. And then finally, we've also got a VC who is going to be with us, a great friend of ours, Nicole Anderson, from way back in the beginning of this, and she's there, and if a good idea deserves their investment, she'll consider it. So we're trying to give the full track through from the idea through to the instantiation of the idea.
You're leaving no stone unturned, Richard.
Yeah, hopefully.
No, it's fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm also interested, and I want to end on sort of what's next? What can we expect from the series of events as well? What's the aim?
Well, so the key aim, I think, is, and we've put a few videos out there, which is illustrative of what's next. So, you'll remember yourself, but maybe viewers won't, which was one early session we did was around tokenization of rewilding, and it was a twinkle in somebody's idea, and now this company has been formed, Credit Nature. I'm an advisor to them, so I put that out there. But they have gone on to attract funding from Scottish CivTech, and they've got projects where they're actually implementing their idea. So what we've seen is, from our little project, we've got a company delivering real world benefits today, and we want to see 10 of those, 100 of those. And so, if you like, that's the idea. The focus of this one is to move away from the abstract a little bit we've done in the past of, be it risk or be it nature or be it supply chain. We put it in that total context of cities, and that is a big problem space, and we want to see great solutions in that area.
And finally, your call to action to our viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you want to go along and get involved with the conference, then sign up at www.sustainable.finance.live, and that's where we will have about 100 people in the room already. We've got room for about another 20, so get in fast. You can stream in online if you're actually, not able to travel. That's great. But also, we have our, bake-off, our hackathon. The idea is get people together. We'll give you a quest. You get together with your, not eggs and flour this time, but actually code and ideas, and you will hopefully produce, this next solution for the future. So rather than a pavlova, we're asking people to build things that will save the world. So sign up, go to the site, go to the hackathon tab, and we'll see you at the show.
Richard, thank you so much.